Happy New Year. Welcome to 2026 and welcome to our Ocean Talks. This is our second edition, and this is a really exciting way for us to get some of our ocean community in front of you and just to hear their voices, to be inspired by them, because everybody starts somewhere and they've all taken that first step to get out into the world and kind of really follow their dreams. I'm Matt Porteous. I am the co-founder of Ocean Culture Life. It was actually set up 10 years ago in January. So we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. It's 2026. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary from sitting down on the North Shore of Hawaii, setting up a website, coming up with this concept and starting to reach out to people. And now 10 years later, our team is building, our community is global, and it's a very proud moment for myself. And I know Tamsin's going to speak in a minute, but it's a very proud moment for us just to follow a dream and a passion, and to also know that nothing happens overnight. You really have to kind of commit the time and the energy and the effort into these things. And that is where our storytelling grants, as a photographer, I used to enter competitions all the time, and the results from entering a competition or for winning a competition, it's not just about the prize that you win or the money that you get, but it's about the recognition that you get after the competition. And that's going to be a big part of this chat. You can be seen. It's being seen and heard, and knowing that the journey that you're on is a good journey. I think that's one of the biggest things about any competition. It's just the visibility that you have. It's the visibility and the recognition, and being noticed by the community and being able to use your work to help others. So this is an exciting talk for us because also at the beginning of this journey together, Tamsin and I have always wanted to be able to fund projects that are actually making a difference and inspiring hope. OCL is all about ocean storytelling. It's about telling the positive story, the stories that are making a difference, and the stories that are really kind of changing, and allowing anybody, whether you're at school, at college, if you want to make a career choice, a career change, we all have that opportunity now. And we have some amazing panelists here this evening. They're going to talk about their journey and the places that they're in. So and also we're giving away 35 grants this year. Is that right, Tamsin?
Yes.
35. We're giving away 35 grants this year. So there's an opportunity for 35 of you to win this grant, which will take you, who knows, around, but it will take you around the world. You're going to meet some amazing people, and we're just really happy to have you here today learning from our panelists. So I'm going to pass this over to Tamsin, but thank you all very much for being here. Ask us questions, get the right questions up to the top, and just enjoy the conversations we're going to have this evening. Tamsin, over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to actually kick off by essentially passing it straight over to our panelists whilst I answer some of the questions. But guys, please bear with me because there's a lot of questions coming through, and a lot of these we're going to cover in this talk. So like Matt said, we're recording it, and there will be time for Q&A at the end as well. I'm going to pass it straight over to the panelists. I'm going to start with Emma, and we're going to start with just a couple questions around where you were when you applied and what story or issue you were trying to tell. Let's just start with those two so you don't have to remember too much. So Emma, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. I think I'm probably in Bali, or in Gilis or in Jakarta. I was somewhere at home for sure. When I applied, I was most likely had just come back from Gili because that's where my short film ended up being kind of based off of. So I was definitely somewhere diving, like when I was thinking of like my idea. And what was the second question was?
It was, what story or issue were you trying to tell? So talk a little bit about because nobody knows what format or media you were to. So you've obviously just touched on that you're a film. But what story or issue were you trying to tell with your story?
Yeah, so I did a short film about a group of women about a program called Coral Catch. So I was looking at how Coral Catch offers scholarships for Indonesian women to become scientific divers. And so it was basically looking at that program. And originally, the story was looking at how it was a coral restoration program. They go through 9 weeks of this full scholarship, like they get everything fully funded. They do over 50 scientific dives, they get certified. Originally, the story was going to be about the coral restoration courses that they get and the fact that they become scientific divers. Because I had recently just been a diver myself, and I wanted to share that this program was doing such amazing work. And then I started filming it, and slowly it kind of changed. So the story that I ended up putting out was a little bit different from the story that I originally applied with. But I think it was kind of a mix of both. So during my interview and during the application, it was very much sharing that it was about these women and about all these girls. But in the end, it ended up being a little bit more about the alumni. And so my short film basically was showing about how this program was a stepping stone for women to be involved in the marine science world in Indonesia, which is typically very, very difficult. So originally was like I was really focused on the fact that it had to be an ocean story, but then I kind of intersected it with something that I'm very passionate about, which is women empowerment. So that was kind of the background of my project. Yeah.
And what would you say with the grant? What would you say? How did it unlock, or did it unlock anything beyond money?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing was I completely grew my network because it allowed me to interview over 20 Indonesian women within the marine science world. And if there are any Indonesian marine scientists watching or listening, it is a very, very, very small community. And we all know each other and we all know where everyone else is. And so what it allowed me to have is a huge network of people. Whereas if someone else is looking for an opportunity somewhere, like in Labuan Bajo, I'm like, oh, I know Sakina. She works at a liveaboard in Labuan Bajo. So that was kind of a big thing for me personally that it unlocked. And not only that, but of course, it grew my skills and my background in media, which is kind of what I do now. I work fully in ocean media, which I did not think was an option at all whatsoever. So I think that was the biggest part was I don't think in any way I would have been able to actually go full time into ocean media without originally getting this grant, because I've gotten grants prior, but they weren't actually media. They were ocean grants for restoration projects and whatnot. So for me personally, it was a huge entire network of beautiful Indonesian women working in the marine science world, as well as it really allowed me to create my own project, media project, and like have a backing to be able to go into the media world, really.
Emma, it's been amazing watching your journey, just even in the last 12 months, and how much you've grown as an individual, but the impact. And we're going to come back to, in a little bit, we're going to be talking specifically about impact with the stories and the applications that we like to see come in. But I'm going to move on to Tiff. Tiff, let us know where you were when you applied, what format your story was, and what story or issue you were trying to tell with the storytelling grant.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I think I was in the Florida Keys at home also, though I can't really be sure. I never really know where I wake up. And I was amplifying the story of this incredible coral reef in Tela, Honduras that is just defying everything that we know about how coral reefs work. Like it's hot, it's polluted, it's silty, it's dirty. It's next to this huge city with raw sewage, and then the corals there are just bigger than I've ever seen in the Caribbean. And nobody knows why, because no scientists had really been there. And I helped found a nonprofit there a couple years ago. And our main goal was to get storytelling and science down there to really pair those two together. And so I applied for this grant kind of as if we, got some money, maybe we could make a film. And it just snowballed in a way that completely hijacked my entire year and life and has turned into something bigger than I ever could have imagined. And for everybody that was in the film and in that community, they were, when I told them like people from around the world were watching and supporting, they were breaking out in tears and they were just in disbelief that their little, slice of paradise could mean something to other people.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And again, it's been incredible watching that. It feels like it's just rippled and grown into this movement. And again, the impact that you've achieved with this film and your team has achieved has been monumental. And we'll come back to that again. Did the grant unlock anything beyond money? And what's maybe something you didn't expect with either the process or getting the grant itself?
Yes, I had no idea what making a film meant when I applied and got this grant and another one. And so it has been a really psychotic lesson, crash course. And the grant allowed us in particular to bring on people from Tela onto our team, like local drone pilots, local translators, people who know the terrain and live this every single day in order to give them the proper voice and space and to add a lot more authenticity to it. And ever since we've made the film, we just world premiered it. Uh, Everyone has told me that someone's writing a book, they've created a VR center with underwater dives, and someone else is starting a dive company. And so it has just helped them see so many more opportunities to share.
That's fantastic. I'd encourage everyone as well, because obviously we're not going to have time on this call to go through in detail about everyone's stories, but make sure you go onto our website and check out the films, the photo series, the art, the illustration that we're going to be talking about today, because it really is so inspiring. And I think the process of applying, I don't know if you agree, Tiff, but like the before part is the anticipation around how do we apply, and that's what this call is about. But I think the piece of kind of advice I want to give to everyone is look at how amazing these allowed all of you to achieve. And I think you go in with this objective of like, okay, this amount of money can help me achieve this, but actually what it goes on to doing is so much more. So yeah, I've loved following your journey too, Tiff. So thank you, and thank you so much. Stefan, I'm going to come to you next because I'm going along my screen. So you are one of our first ever grantees and our first cohort. So let's take it back to 3 years ago. What story and issue were you trying to help and support with your story, and in what format was it? And then tell us a little bit more about kind of what impact that you achieved.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I got the grant back in 22, and at the time I was just starting out as an artist, illustrator, trying to figure out how to, combine activism and art together and somehow make a living from that. It seemed like a big dream to have. So yeah, when I got the grant from OCL, I was really excited. My project was about sharing or raising awareness about the whaling issue in Iceland, where I'm from. So not many people, or maybe hopefully more people know that now, that in Iceland there's still whaling going on, even though we pride ourselves on being a nation that is so deeply connected to nature, to the ocean, of course, and that like we care about the animals there. So right now, yeah, there's one company still remaining that does whaling. And yeah, I wanted to create a series of illustrations to not only tell facts, but also to sort of reconnect people and yeah, create some emotions within them to at least have a stance on the topic, because so many people just were apathetic. If you like on the polls, when people were asked, the public, what they think about whaling, so many people said just no opinion. So yeah, my goal was just to start conversations, to plant seeds, and yeah, one of the ultimate like goals of the campaign itself was to deliver like a petition to the Minister of Fisheries. Yeah, so we achieved that, and the project managed to get the attention of big public local figures like Björk, and from that, like the ball started rolling a lot. I became known as, the whale artist in Iceland. And yeah, when Björk was wanting to do some kind of event about whaling, I was like contacted immediately because they remembered illustrations that I've done about whales. And yeah, so it unlocked a lot of things for me.
It really did, and it it still does. Like you said, it lives on today, and I think it was a small catalyst of what else you've been able to achieve. But coming back to your application, Stefan, I think what really stood out was the you had a bit of an understanding of a direct call to action and where you wanted to head with this. You had an objective, a big objective of what you wanted to achieve. But you're also really realistic about, okay, well, this is where I'm starting and this is where I want to head. And you can't always promise to us that this is what's going to be achieved, but we believed in your vision, we believed in the power of your work, and we believed in this work being able to open up doors into a collective of movement. And that's exactly what you did. I mean, you went beyond and above everything what I think you ever even thought you'd achieve. So what I want to say to everyone here is, like, things change, they evolve, they grow. Sometimes they pause, sometimes they stop, and sometimes you don't have to have it all planned out. But really think about what would the ideal situation be with this story, and then how in that journey can you measure that impact? Because measuring that impact is so key. Because otherwise, you know, why did we set out to tell the story in the first place? So have that goal, have that in mind, have that visualized, and make sure it's in your application process. Even if you don't achieve those exact goals, that you might achieve slightly separate goals, that's okay. But we need to be able to see that in the process of what you're heading towards. So, Stefan, I think your application was stellar. I think what you've achieved is ginormous, and you're just at the start of your journey. So, and you start up your own non-profit now. You've got all things happening for you. So, I've loved seeing you. We've all loved seeing you on this journey and growing in the ways that you are. So, thank you. 3 years ago, can't believe that was only 3 years ago as well. In some ways, that was our first kind of small grantees. We only had a few that year, and the impact you all achieved was immense. So thank you. And Sammy, I'm coming to you next. So Sammy, you were a grantee this 2025. So tell me a little bit about the story that you wanted to tell and the issue that you were trying to solve, or at least address. And then what did the grant unlock beyond money for you? Or did it unlock anything? Or was it just some cash that you thought, I'm going to spend on this?
Hi, so I'm Samuel. I'm a surfer and musician, and I've been doing this thing called Busking for the Ocean, where I play piano in public to raise awareness about the ocean conservation and the problems our oceans have. And I feel so passionate about this because surfing is such a beautiful thing, but the industry surfing is really like polluting and harmful to the oceans. And the OCL storytelling grant really helped me to share my story and connect the world of ocean and surfing with music. I think they're both really interlinked, like sound waves and surfing waves. And I always, I'm not, I never saw myself as a storyteller or a filmmaker, but just joining the OCL community and being surrounded by such amazing people, they always like push me to do more and help me see the best side of myself. It was really like inspiring, and just, I think the best thing the grant gave me, apart from the money was only a catalyst to start actually doing something on a larger scale. It, I've, I've been lucky to go to ocean culturalized events like the World Ocean Week event in Jersey and some movie screenings in London. That really helped me like connect with other ocean storytellers, and it showed me how much passion there is for ocean conservation. And it's not only me. Like in my hometown, there's not many kids around me or people doing much in this in ocean conservation, and just being surrounded by such passionate people really gives me hope for the ocean. It makes me really happy. And yeah, it's just knowing that there's a community of people you can reach out to and ask for advice, learn more about it. I think it's truly beautiful.
Epic, Sammy. I'm going to come back to you in a little bit because I want to go to Kaush because I know he's got to leave soon. But again, going back to your story, what you achieved this year, and just seeing you take each challenge and smash it. You've not said no to one thing. Whenever a new opportunity is coming up for you, you are there, you're showing up. And I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the year of saying yes for you. You just went for it. You were balancing school, you're balancing everything else, and then you lean into something as an opportunity, and you said yes to it all. So well done. I've loved watching it, and listening to your music on all the events and everything as well. So, Kaush, I'm going to come to you next because I'm aware that you've got to go and document all beautiful things in Norway. So tell us where you were when you applied and the location of the story. What format was your story? And yeah, anything in terms of the issue that you wanted to try and bring awareness to, or was there a direct call to action?
Yeah, so I was at the BBC. I was working at the BBC at the time when I applied for the grant. And I went out, like, as soon as I got the grant, I went out within about a month of getting the grant to go and shoot the film, just because seasonally I had to get out there ASAP. The film is about a young man who's kind of changing the tide in his local community, which is historically afraid of the ocean, because they don't know how to, most of them don't know how to swim, despite needing the ocean for their livelihood. So fishing is like the major source of income for a lot of these families, and a major source of protein as well for the community. But for various reasons, they don't know how to swim. And so when people go out into the water, whether it be to fish or just kids going out to play, drownings happen really often, kind of weekly is not rare. So my story is about a guy that he almost died when he was younger, almost drowned, and then has kind of learned to swim and is now a qualified swim teacher and is teaching the younger kids in the community now to interact safely with the ocean and kind of appreciate it as not just something that you have to go into to make money or like get food, but also to be able to enjoy it. And he wants to help people get more into diving and also help the older community fish more sustainably because the reefs are really suffering around there and food security is a real big problem there. So it's been really cool to see the reception to the film and also showcase it in the local community as well to kids so they can see it's all well and good kind of showing them a film from somewhere else, but like seeing someone that they know and see on a daily or weekly basis go out and do these things, it's really cool to be able to show that to them and encourage them to get into the ocean more and become ocean protectors in the long run.
When you applied for the grant, Kaush, did you have a understanding of what you wanted this film to achieve? And secondly, did you put that into your application?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to showcase it in the local community to be able to encourage more kids to come to swimming lessons, to be able to learn how to swim and then go on to do more things in the ocean. So that was kind of the biggest thing that I wanted to do, other than obviously create a cool film of this guy. The things after that, like the awards and putting it into festivals and things, were kind of like an afterthought, because I knew that was possible, but I didn't really know anything about festivals or things at that point. And that was definitely something that I learned on the go. But yeah, primarily I just wanted to create this film as a way of showcasing what can be done, but in like a cinematic format so people would enjoy it and be more engaging with it.
And I also know it's been beneficial to a charitable organization as well. So, and that's been used really, really kind of in depth to help encourage more funding, etc. So I think one thing that I would suggest and stress to a lot of people listening is, yes, okay, why are you telling this story? Can you link it? Or are you a guardian yourself in terms of an organization that needs a story to tell? Because I think yours was a little bit of a hybrid whereby Love the Oceans, really use this asset to be able to spread awareness about what they're doing, but also to encourage more support as well. And that can be really beneficial to a guardian. But equally, it also was a separate piece of content that inspired the community, inspired our global ocean community, and really learned a lot from what's being done in Mozambique. I'm gonna just probably pause on Kaush for a second because I know you have to leave shortly, Kaush. But is there anything that you didn't expect when it came to applying for the grant? Any kind of, and also let's be honest, any learnings, any kind of like, oh, this did not go to plan, or I put this down in the application and this didn't happen, and this is how I pivoted. Because I think that's important.
Yeah, nothing goes to plan in the field. So always like budget extra for things or try and anticipate extra days that you might need on the shoot. Weather is never going to be on your side when you need it to be. So always kind of add in a couple of extra days. When you're budgeting out your film, add in a set amount just literally for miscellaneous things like a visa that you didn't know you needed, or like a permit or something like that. There's always going to be these added little costs. So it's nice to just have that little bit in the bank for when they come. Don't put off shooting anything that you can earlier on, for example. So if you know you can shoot it tomorrow, go and shoot it tomorrow, because in 3 days' time, you might be in a monsoon and not be able to go shoot it, so don't put it off. And back up everything you shoot every single night. Don't get lazy with it, because that's how you end up losing things. Those are definitely some key lessons that I learned whilst making my short film.
Amazing. Thanks, Kaush. I probably will come back to you. We might have some time still. Juma, I'm coming to you next, and I want to hear a little bit about what format your story was, and what did you hope your story would achieve, and did it achieve what you hoped it achieved?
Thank you so much, Tamsin, and the whole Ocean Culture team. And I'm so delighted to be here today, joining the other panelists. Yeah, so my name is Juma Gorenya, and I'm from Kenya, Africa, and South Coast, in a place called Diani. And the main objective of our film was to try and show a different side of the story, to flip the conservation narrative from traditional aspect of it. We wanted to show that inclusion of these local communities towards bigger, impactful, initiatives such as city conservation is very key. So basically, it was to show that empowering local communities is very vital towards having sustainable projects on the ground level. So that's what was one of our main objective. And sorry, what was the next question, please?
So other than the impact of what it is that you wanted to achieve, did your storytelling grant help you achieve what you wanted to achieve?
Uh, Thank you. Yeah. So first, also, just like the other panelists, I was not also into storytelling or visual storytelling as per se, but this came through from a colleague of ours back at work when we saw the OCL grant, and I was like, but this is something which can be very impactful towards the work we are doing with the local communities. And what we achieved with the documentary afterwards, we wanted to create this ripple effect, within first on the local grassroots level, because one essence with the local communities, for instance, in Kenya, they have to see other people participating in an impactful initiative for them to participate in such an act. So when we produced the documentary finally, and we started showcasing it in some of the local forums, most people showed that aspect of wanting to involve themselves bigger within this conservation, because most people didn't want to involve themselves in these aspects. Then the other thing also, the documentary gave us this global platform, the validation. People now tend to see the story that has been covered on the ground level, from just saying it by word and doing it on the ground level, but capturing it in a visual aspect of it. Now people tend to relate on a bigger perspective. We have other organizations who want to support our work that we're doing with the local communities. Right now here we are connecting with the panelists and the global audience, trying to understand the type of work we are doing down here in Kenya. So it has been really helpful in giving us validation and giving us a platform, to showcase what we're doing down here towards sea turtle conservation with the local communities. Thank you.
Yeah, also, Juma, that's a really good point. I think we've had a couple of questions around okay, I apply in English, but the facilitation of the grant is going to help me create content in, say, Swahili, which will live with amongst the schools and the community that we're working in. That's absolutely fine. Please just detail that in your application. Ensure that you're saying that, this won't be an English format, but it will be in our local language because of X, Y, and Z. That's okay. Just make sure it's really clear in your application. I think that's a really important point. And again, just going back to your point there, Juma, your content really lived within the community. Yes, it lived across our digital channels, and broadly speaking, people are learning from what it is that you're doing. But it's really okay if you don't have that kind of really broad international distribution plan for your story. Just make sure that it's rooted in the why and the where. I think that's really, really important. So Juma, again, I loved coming to personally even see the project happening, and then to receive all of the content that you've done so far around and what the storytelling grant has helped you achieve, which has just been a tiny bit, may I say, of the effort that you've put in has been amazing. So thank you. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
I'm going to really quickly just move into, because I'm mindful of time now, what good practice looks like. I'm aware that we've had lots of questions come through, and I'm struggling to get to all of them, but I'm going to try and answer them as we go in the next phase of the webinar. So I keep talking about impact, And rather than keeping it theoretical, I think we need to we want the criteria to be real examples of our community. So I'm going to try and do that a little bit. I'm also going to circulate a one-pager after this with further examples that you can kind of read about with previous grantees that are rooted in impact. So I think the main key takeaway here with this is that strong applications really articulate what changes are, because strong applications really articulate what changes are going to be made because of the story existing. So it's not just what the story is about. Think about an impact in different ways. And I think with that in mind, Juma, I'm going to come back to you. When you were shaping your project, how did you define impact beyond the story itself? So what was it you were thinking about when it came to your application where it was asking you about impact? How are you going to measure that and report back to OCL and the community and also your stakeholders?
Thank you. In terms of measuring impact and what we were foreseeing, with the story itself, we wanted to see how like these local communities tend and feel. Is there a change in behavior? Is there a change in how they perceived sea turtles way before and currently? And I'll speak on two aspects of it. Number one is the behavioral change of it. We've seen like there's this shift in the aspect whereby previously, these local communities perceived sea turtles as food for consumption and all that. But there's a change whereby now these local communities are starting to report these aspects of maybe sea turtle mortalities, sea turtle strandings, bycatch, which is the accidental capture of sea turtles during a fishing expedition. Previously, these were all things that did not happen. But currently, after all these efforts on the ground level, we are seeing a shift in how they're reporting towards all these aspects. Right now, as we're speaking, we have data collectors on the ground level. So these local communities have taken the mantle. The information that we shared with them they're now sharing it to their peers. So there's this development of peer-to-peer learning aspect of it. They've transitioned from just community beneficiaries to community leaders and teachers who are taking the mantle step forward. We have collected data together with them. They're also they're also leading in scientific research part of it, which is very key. Bycatch is one of the biggest threats of sea turtles down in the south coast region of Kenya. But currently, there's this program whereby we are using LED lights to try and reduce bycatch aspects of the ground level. And these are the local communities doing all this. The trust we build with them and the aspect they're doing currently is way different compared to what happened. Also, the government or the county government within our region is currently also implementing some of the policies to ensure that local fishers and communities are being reinforced and seen, and there are policies which ensure compensation aspects are taking place, compliance is key, and such aspects which are taking place on the ground level. Tamsin, yeah.
Amazing, thank you, Juma. Kaush, I'm going to come to you quickly next because I know you've got to run. You're still with us, yet you are. Okay. So your film has obviously traveled globally, and I know you maybe didn't have that exact plan in terms of your application process when you first applied, in terms of this is where it's going to live and this is how it's going to live, and the whole film festival circuit was new to you. But when you did apply, what did you first hope achieve? What did you kind of hope the film would achieve? And then how did it grow from there? How did the process start for you, thinking, right, I can go here and this is how I'm going to do it? And talk to us a little bit about that, because I know a lot of people also aren't aware that the film circuit even exists and how to get into that.
Yeah, I knew like film festivals was a thing, but I didn't know how you apply. It's kind of, I guess, the same as when people apply to photography competitions for the first time. Like they exist, but sometimes you're unaware of how to get into it. My number one thing when I started it was to create this film to have an impact and kind of use it to like I said, to encourage more people to go to swimming lessons for Love the Ocean, to be able to do that, and also for them to be able to use to raise more money for their swimming project, because as a grassroots NGO, they're obviously looking for funding at all times. So this is just a great example to show to potential funders of, look what we can do with the small amount of money that we have right now, and if you can give us more, we can expand it exponentially. when it came to film festivals, I kind of just learnt it on the go, to be honest. So I'm happy for anyone to reach out to me if they want to learn more about it, and I could share what little knowledge I have. I'm not an expert on film festivals at all, but yeah, I kind of just started applying to them. Most of them are done on an online platform called Film Freeway, and you kind of just apply to them. Most of them have various fees that you have to pay depending on how early or late you apply, and it goes through there. I would say that for what I think most people are applying for the OCL storytelling grant, if you're doing films, and you want to enter festivals, tailoring them towards ocean, surf, water kind of, even wildlife festivals is a good idea because that's going to resonate more with the judges and the kind of people viewing them. But yeah, it's crazy how much reach you can get by putting it out there on the internet, at festivals, and just I think you'll really find out how many people across the world resonate with your story when you do something like that, because you'll see that a lot of these stories, while they might be super local, there'll be someone else in the world that has the same issue or is feeling the same thing as well. So it's a great way of connecting with other people that have the same thing and sharing information and potential solutions to any problems that you have.
Yeah, amazing. We'll also do the same in terms of a little resource booklet of like what film festivals to apply to, how to, and I think we can also go into a bit more detail with that with some of our partners. So Sammy, really quickly, your project created a massive emotional impact, and obviously you used the music to do that. So a completely different format. How intentional was that when you started out the project?
So initially, I always knew that people in general, they love music, and that music can make you feel emotions that words just can't. And that's really powerful in storytelling because when I was busking, for example, the music was what would capture the audiences and get them to be in the moment and learn about the causes I was promoting. And especially with my film, that's what made it really powerful. I think playing the movie alongside playing the music live really just connected on this much more to the film and made the story resonate much more. And that's just been, yeah, I think music was really, really useful.
Thanks, Sammy. Yeah, I could listen to your stuff all day, and I loved the film. The film was just unbelievable. I could watch it again and again and again. I can't wait to see the next one. So I'm going to move on to collaboration. So collaboration really isn't a bolt-on, guys. You need to think of it as the foundation. Sammy and a couple of the other people have spoken about this, about really opening doors for each other and using this grant as a stepping stone, but really only seeing it as that. Lean into the existing community. I know, Sammy, you've gone on to really push hard and connect with as many people within the OCL community as you can this year, and that's opened further doors for you. So really lean into that. And I also know that all of you work with communities in different ways. And Emma, I'm going to come to you for this. Your work really centers around women in coral restoration. So how did collaboration shape the story and the outcome of the film?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I realized with the film was that like I didn't know, but a lot of the women had gone on to be working with all these marine conservation groups and marine research groups around Indonesia. So it was this interesting thing of me also not only connecting with these women, but also with these conservation groups. And then like moving forward, I was actually able to work with a couple of them like later on. Like right now I'm on a ship and there is one of the scientists, he's from Indo-Ocean Foundation, and I know Indo-Ocean Foundation because one of the very first girls that I filmed, actually the first girl that I interviewed for the ocean, for my grant for my film, was with this grant, and so it kind of like created that network for me, and the collaboration between not only the women but with also like all the different like projects that they were involved in, and it was actually really cool because Coral Catch themselves were able to win a Blue Foundation award, and so they were able to do they did a reunion last year, which was epic because they brought in as many as they could of the alumni, and they had almost 50 women. And at the reunion, they were able to showcase the film that I made, and it was really emotional because there were so many of the women in the room at the time. And so I think a lot of the girls got to hear everyone else's perspective with the short film as well. But yeah, I think definitely I was able to collaborate with not only Coral Catch by sharing their story, but I was able to collaborate with like a huge plethora of different different organizations. So now I feel super connected around Indo, which is a vast place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen how this film has really helped Cora Catch and the team there. And I think it's just such a beautiful example of collaboration at its finest. And I know how many women you've worked with as well. And I know how hard that is to orchestrate, to manage the logistics around that. So one thing I would say with that is I know that each and every one of you have taken these 1,500, 3,000 pound grants and stretched them so far. So like Cowshed, be realistic in your budget that maybe this isn't going to cover all of it, and be realistic about that. Don't pretend that 3,000 pound is going to cover a year and a half of your time whilst you do all of this stuff, because we know it isn't. And one thing that we really want to stress is that these grants exist to cover your time as creatives, as storytellers. So when it comes to building out the budget, make sure you're putting in your time as one of the budget I can't speak today. It's too late already. As a budget line item, that's what it's called. So make sure you're doing that. Okay, I'm going to come over to Emma. Just come over to Emma. Tiff, Tiff, I want to kind of repeat the question that I asked Emma. And I know that you've worked with multiple different stakeholders with your film. So talk to me a little bit about that and the kind of how you manage that process, especially when it came to distributing the grant funds, because I know, again, small amount, but you made it go a long, long way.
Absolutely. I would repeat everything that people have said. We used every grant that we got to talk to other people, potential partners in the community, to say like, hey, we have this amount of money. Can you sponsor us a lunch? Can you give us a place to put our film equipment without charging us? Think in kind of support. And then we were like, oh, we'd be super happy to showcase you in the film. And so we worked with people, our film's around Tilla, but we also went to Roatan and Utila. And so we got to dive with different conservation orgs there, and we said, oh, we're happy to, since we're there with our film team, we'll film a little film for you just to use in your own marketing. And so we got to just support their own efforts, learn what they're doing, but then also fine tune things for our film while there. And then in terms of building it all together, it was helpful to keep in mind exactly what you were saying, Tamsin, of like, don't try to think any one grant is going to cover the whole thing, because it's not. Like, we're still fundraising for post-production. And what I would encourage anyone wanting to apply to is to trust that things will come as you build these beautiful stories. More support will roll in. People will be like, this is amazing. How do I donate? How do I help? And you can just be like, I need any resource you can give me. Here's what we're doing. Here's why it matters. Share your impact. And you'd be surprised how many people are just like overflowing with support. And then if you're kind of in that like producing role where you're bringing it all together, learning how to weave all that different level of support and different kinds of support in to build a team. Like, we had a restaurant that was like, we will feed your whole team. And I was like, that's awesome, because I underestimated how much food people needed when they were in the field by half. So everyone was starving the first 3 days. And then we had a local restaurant be like, we got you. We will feed you baleadas until you burst. So things like that, just being creative.
Yeah, I love that. Always asking. And, at the end of the day, guys, people are just going to say no. And you'll be surprised the people that say yes and how they say yes in different ways. Like Tiff just mentioned, in-kind donations, amazing. Reach out to brands. Use the fact that you've received an OCL grant to be able to give you that gravitas, to be able to ask for things too, as well as the confidence, because you're all very worthy of that. I'm going to move on to storytelling as a catalyst for action, because I think one of the biggest things we've seen here and we've experienced is not one grant that we've given out have we seen zero impact. And I think that's so key. So I think impact can mean unlocking the next step. Like all of you here, if we were to look back at your applications about what you want to achieve, what you wanted to achieve, and then really look at actually what you have achieved, it's beyond, it's 10 times. And I think that it's great to aim high, but you've all gone beyond that by so much. So think about that when it comes to your application, about being realistic, but also aiming big, because we want to see those big, big ideas. So several of your projects didn't stop at screening. They created big momentum. Sam, your film review, Busking Jersey. What did you realize this? When did you realize that the story was really becoming a catalyst for change? And what's next for you with this journey? Because I know it's not just going to stop at the film.
It was just actually because I knew I really liked the film as myself watching it, but then when I actually played it in front of audiences, that's when the reality check came, and I saw like people like getting really moved by it. Some people would get tears in their eyes, were just really coming to tell me how much they liked it, and that just I can see the value in sharing the story, and that I would really want to inspire myself and others to use your passions and share them with the world, and yeah, and then my movie helps me. The movement Busking for the Ocean is like a catalyst to expand this and increase the reach and reach many more people and invite more people to use music or their passions to make change. For example, in my new school now, there's a lot of musicians, and a lot of them are involved. They want to get involved and start busking as well. I think it's like the first step into a new journey. That just without this grant, I wouldn't have made it to here, and it's just amazing.
Love
I
that.
feel like sorry, I don't want to take too much time, but yeah. And then now we have this movie. We considered it a pilot film because we didn't put. We can. I feel like there's much more we can add to the movie. We can add interviews to people, get different perspectives, and show the journey of how it started from movie to where we're going to now. And so now we're looking to collaborate with people, be fundraising more, and just develop this. I think there's like potential.
Yeah, again, where you started and where you're going, and it is just the start. Tiff, you kind of your project expanded into live concerts and fundraising and all the other things. So how did storytelling help unlock that wider impact for you?
We have nothing without stories, right? Like I always say, like if science was enough, we wouldn't have a climate problem. We wouldn't have acidifying oceans. We wouldn't be losing coral reefs if science was going to move people to action. And I think it's through adding this human connecting lens, like showing why, like I, as a storyteller, why the ocean makes me like cry and live and breathe. And then showcasing that in the subject of my film, why it also gives him life. And then showing people, storytelling is the base of it for us. Now we've translated that into, like you said, these concerts that are called Music for the Ocean. And um and so we have like a violinist playing live with a pianist, and then we have these animations, and then in the middle he'll talk about this is a triggerfish and this is why it's considered the a-hole of the ocean, and he'll show a little video of it attacking a diver, and everyone learns something and walks away from it. And then same with fundraising, right? You think you're asking for money and being weird, but you're really giving people a chance to connect to why you love the ocean, and bringing storytelling into that lens has led to all these connections, but also success.
Yeah, I love that. I think that really reminds us that impact doesn't always mean bigger. Sometimes it means next. And I suppose yours and Sammy's examples are great. So let's talk a little bit, because I really do want to go into Q&A. Ethical and authentic storytelling, it strengthens impact, it does not dilute it. So ethics really is something that comes up in everyone's projects, and whether you really are thinking about who's telling the story, with whom, or with, in what context, it's super, super important. Emma, I want to talk to you. How did you navigate responsibility when stories are about people and places that you care deeply about? And talk to me a little bit about how you really considered the authentic and ethical storytelling as something that you within your application.
I think this is a really great question, I think, especially for people who are putting in applications. But I think one of the biggest things was, at least with the short film that I made, I wanted to make sure that it was reflecting exactly not only what I would like to share about and what I'd learned through like my friends. I had several friends who had been involved in the program, and my twin sister, which is why I decided in the end to like apply for this, because I had some other ideas, but it was the way that it was transformative for my sister that really pushed me to do it. And so that's how I knew it wasn't only an environmental story, but a human story. But I think like as storytellers, especially if we're telling someone else's story, I think one of the biggest things that we want to make sure is that like that person is, or that community is as involved with the final output of the story as possible. So that included like the group, there's a group chat with all the women in it, and I think I'm the only person who's in it that wasn't actually a superwoman, but I'm considered one because I was meant to be, and then it got pushed, and then I've met all of them at this point. But it was sending every single version of every draft, making sure that every female and every woman like who was involved in the story had was okay with their clips, was okay with like which pieces were taken. Like some of the girls, a lot of them cried, and so some of them were okay with being shown that they were crying, and some of them weren't. So I think with the emotional side, the human side of the story that I was building, I wanted to make sure that it communicated not only what I think would touch people's hearts, but also what everyone was involved with, who was involved, like what they were okay with and their boundaries. Particularly Rose, who was the founder of the program that I was showcasing. I wanted to make sure, because I think like as we've been talking about impact, a lot of people have like different goals for like what they would wanted to achieve like with their projects, and mine of course was to share the story and to get people to apply and support the project. But the biggest thing was I wanted them to have a proof of concept kind of video. So like I wanted Coral Catch, because they were applying for new grants every single batch, I wanted them to be able to say, here are at the time 24 alumni who have done incredible things. You can see them in the short film, like please support our project. So that was the main reason for mine. And so I wanted to make sure that Rose was as involved in that output, and she was as involved in what we were sharing about the story. All the facts were correct, that she was like, that she got her message out there as much as like I wanted to get a vision of what I wanted it to look like. So I think definitely the involvement of whoever's story you're sharing is very, 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 very important to any sort of storytelling.
Totally agree. Like creatively, we might go out with an intention of what we want it to look and what impact we want it to have, but essentially, if you're not communicating things that are factually correct, or also could be end up being detrimental to how you around maybe how you're telling the story. So something that we all really need to consider, and something that we will question when it comes to the interview process. So make sure you really thought about that, how you're telling the story. Tiff, quick one on this. I know that you intentionally hired lots of local collaborators and filmmakers and photographers. So how did that improve your?
I mean, they basically acted as our location fixers. We showed up there and we were like, okay, we need a sunset. We need somewhere a baby can touch water. We need this and this. And they were like, okay, this is the prettiest one here. This is this. And then we were like, okay, does this place mean something to you? And they were like, oh, if that's what you mean, let's shift to this one. You still get a nice sunset, but this is like where I got my first, look at corals. And so we were able to add in so many layers that the local community will understand and that will mean something to them, which was our biggest goal, was to help the local community feel pride in their resource in this beautiful place they call home that most of them have never seen. Without that lens, we never would have found those places. We would have been on a Google map best, being like, that looks like a big beach that we could fit a car to get film gear to. So it was super necessary, and it added not just authenticity, but also a lot of love to the film.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think this kind of brings back that, when it comes to ethics, it's not about constraint. It's what gives stories credibility and trust, and the how is just as important as the why. So really think about how you're telling those stories, how they're rooted in doing and telling them in the right way. Stefan, I want to come to you quickly. Whilst this isn't kind of on the agenda, obviously you very much used your storytelling in to help influence policy change. And so talk to me a little bit about how you navigated that aspect of exactly that, using your art to, drive real kind of specific change within policy.
Yeah, sure. So like I said, one of the goals of my project was to collect these signatures to give to the Minister of Fisheries, and already mentioned to utilize, the local community and the connections that you have there was really important in my case. Even when I got the call that I got the grant from OCL, I was in the whale museum in Iceland, and I was like surrounded by life-size whales, just having a conversation with the manager there, just to try to, you know, establish something for the cause. So yeah, just being out there, being in contact with other people that care as well, and you can rally together to create some kind of event or protest, and just keep talking about it, keep talking about it with the people in the local community. And in my case, I was planting seeds, and I noticed around me like people were starting to talk about it and have some kind of opinion on it. And yeah, that was a really big thing in my project.
I think it's really key here as well to say that your story does not have to be global to be globally relevant. Like, look at all of these examples here around like how we're starting local. We're starting with a local, working with a local guardian to help to achieve a certain objective. But then how they've gone on, like Kausha's film, for example, how it's gone on to be this globally relevant story. We're all learning from what's happening in Mozambique. We're all being inspired by what's happening in Mozambique, as we are with Emma's story, all of the panelists we've got here. So yes, whilst we all have, you know, plan and aspirations for this story to live globally, very much making sure that it is locally rooted first. What impact do you hope that it has locally? And then lean into our network and our community to help it really go global too. Okay, not got much time left before question time. So let's just move on to amplification and reach. So like, I think I've just touched on it there, but we look for stories that are built to travel responsibly. So thinking about essentially going back to ethics, the story, ethics, how you're telling the story, how you want it to be received, and then where you plan for it to go. I've had some questions here about how to measure impact generally. Do we measure in terms of bums on seats? Do we measure it on views? That's really specific to the story that you're trying to tell. So there's not one answer for that. I'd say that if you're thinking about impact in terms of generally, think more generally in terms of how you're going to measure that. But you do need to be able to quantify that in your application process. So don't just leave it out and hope that we don't notice. Because yeah, whilst we might be able to get a lot of eyes on your work, if it's not rooted in a call to action or essentially an objective, then there's I suppose questions around, well, what's the real purpose of this? Okay, so I'm gonna, Matt, we're nearly at what time is it in the UK right now? Can anybody tell me? Because I can't do the conversion. How long have we been?
7.
Is it 7? Okay, yeah. So right, we are really running over. Okay, well, I'm going to end with this statement, and then we're going to move into questions because I know we've got a lot. So think of the impact test. So if this story succeeds, what will be different, and who will it be different for? If you come away with one thing today, come away with that statement and really think about it rooted within your application. So I'm going to say it again. If this story succeeds, what will be different, and for whom? Who will it be different for? So what I hope this shows is that there's no single format, scale, or pathway to impact. What matters is the intention, the ethics, and the clarity, and that's exactly what we're listening for when it comes to these applications. Now, obviously, this year, the application process is slightly different. We have got some questions that you need to answer, but there's a 2-minute video pitch, and there's been lots of questions about that too. So I'm going to pass over to Matt a little bit about what we're looking for in that video pitch. We appreciate 2 minutes is not a long time. It's not a long time to get across everything you want. So make sure your supporting materials are really doing that for you in terms of your budget, how you're going to measure impact. But the 2-minute video really is so that you can get across what you want to say. And if you can't tell us what you want to do in 2 minutes, then it's going to be really tricky for us to understand and for everybody else to understand what you want to achieve. So just think about that a little bit more. I'm going to pass over to Matt to tell you a little bit about what we're hoping to see in the 2-minute video pitch.
Yeah, thank you, Tamsin. It's so nice just to listen to everybody's story and just for us to be here and seeing the journey that you've all gone on and just seeing what we've achieved. It's been really special. The way that we've done it the last couple of years is there's been an application for the grant, and it's been a big process. There's been a lot of copy down, and what really matters, what we really kind of understand in all this, in the world that we're in today, is getting that message across through words on a video is so much more impactful. There's been a lot of questions on here about asking about the storytelling, kind of the idea that storytelling is the main thing is just creating a film. The main thing isn't creating a film. Storytelling is, we are all storytellers. I always say this, we're all storytellers. And whatever we're working on, Stefan is an artist using his pencil and pen to create beautiful art. Samuel's a musician, and also, what was I going to say? There was something. Oh yeah, and Juma as well. Juma was like really like focused on the education in his community in Kenya. So it's storytelling is education. It is what is the end result. If you're in science, but you're working on a project and you've been working on it for years and you're in the ocean space, but it's about the communication of that story. So really kind of think about this. The video and you on screen is a way for us to be able to see you, to see your passion, and to really understand your story and the story that you want to present to the world. We think this is the best way to really kind of get to know somebody, to get to understand the story. You could be filming the area that you're in. You can be talking to the camera. You can just hold your phone. Like this isn't like over the top. Doesn't need to be over the top. It's just natural. Who are you? Where are you? What's the project that you're working on? And what effect, what positive effect can it have moving forward? So really think about all those things. This isn't about an overly edited film that we're having right now. We want to see you. We want to see your personality. And also, I want to say, if you're speaking a different language and it's using Translate. We can use Translate now very easily. We can use some simple apps like CapCut. You can film your story. You can just put it through, run it through. Allow us to see in those 2 minutes who you are as a personality and the project that you're working on. If it's the community that you're with, if it's the art project that you're working on, if it's a little bit of a behind the scenes of the work that you've been committed to for the last few years, just show us that. Show us that and connect and be able to share that story with us in those 2 minutes. I think I kind of covered everything there from that, Tamsin.
Yeah, just going on that, like it can be on your iPhone. It really doesn't need to be polished. It can be
Yeah, it
you,
does.
and yeah, I think that's a really, really key point there. It really doesn't need to
And
be this overly edited thing.
it doesn't need to be an overly edited thing, and I think that's the thing. The end result can be it's the way the film is produced, but it's still, as we've seen on social media these days, it doesn't need to be about the overly polished. It just needs to be about the quality of the story. We're not looking for award-winning films if you're not a filmmaker. If you're an artist or if you're in science, we just want that message to touch our hearts first in those 2 minutes, but know that the end story that you're going to create and you're going to share with us is going to touch many more hearts. So it's about that connecting with us and connecting with our community and knowing that when people hear your story, they're going to be inspired by it. And everybody, I said at the beginning, but we all start somewhere, and it's doing the little things and it's stepping through those little fears to get to where you want to get to. The first fear is actually kind of getting in front of a camera and talking, or you could just use your voice. You don't necessarily have to be on the screen, but we would like to see you. It always helps, so we can see the person behind the lens. But let this be, if you've never done this before, let this be the first time that you get in front of a camera. Let this be the first time that you put your story out there, because it could change your life. It could change your life forever. It could be like one of the most amazing things you've ever stepped into. And it's the one thing that holds us all back at the beginning, is stepping through that initial fear. So allow this to be your time. This is a safe place. OCL and our community and our network is a safe place to reach out and to ask questions. There's been questions. I know there's been a lot of questions about our platform and how you can connect with people on there. This is something that we are working on. We want to have a platform that people can have conversation in. You can connect directly in there, but reach out to the storytellers on here today. Send them a message. Ask them extra questions. I know there's been a lot of questions sent through here. I've been trying to get through as many as I can, but really reach out, because we are all here to help. I think that this is the other thing. I think once we've achieved something in life, and once we've won an award or done something, or we've gone to these places, then we the thing that gives us the most purpose is to be able to help others. So don't feel that you can't reach out, because I know that everybody here, if you reach out when they have the time, they'll get back to you and they'll answer any question that you have. So I know that all their information is on the initial email that went out. So really kind of use this as your opportunity. This is the start, and this is an exciting journey ahead for you. So show us your passion, show us your love, show us your drive, and anything can happen. It really can.
Thanks, Sophie. We've got quite a few questions, some that are directed to our panelists as well. So are you happy for me to just pick a couple out for the next 10 minutes?
Yeah, I sent you a few on a WhatsApp, Tams,
Oh,
and
okay.
there was a few there, but then there's a load more as well if you picked any out. But it's just some of the short
Okay.
questions.
There's one here for Emma. So in what way did the grant enable you to expand your network, Emma? They're interested in how the grant money impacted your ability to connect with organizations and other people.
Yeah, for sure. I think the way that the grant money was able to help me connect was it was able to help me like travel to meet all the women and also get some good quality equipment so that I was able to film to a higher standard than I was used to. But the biggest thing was that a lot of these women were on different parts of Indonesia, and so I was able to go like all the way to West Indonesia in a Nambas, which I had admit to. And actually, I was thinking about something Kaush was saying was like, make sure you like double check everything and add a couple extra days, because I went all the way there thinking I was gonna go dive, and then I realized it was Ramadan and no one was diving. But I did go all the way there and got to like connect with some of the women there. I got to go to Labuan Bajo, and so that was kind of the way that the grant money had allowed me to expand my network as well. And then creating the short film allowed me to meet more women in the community who wanted to know about coral catch and who wanted to know about OCL. I've had a lot of people reach out to me, particularly knowing that I am an OCL grantee, on how they can also apply for OCL grants. So I definitely think the OCL community itself and being a part of this community has given me like a lot of backing. I was meant to go to Raja Ampat with Mads, who was another OCL grantee, and so definitely like it's not only about the money being able to create the project, but the project itself allowed me to expand my network. And now I fully work in marine media, and I don't think I would have been able to get here without that grant. I would have had not, I was doing media, but not at such a high level. I had never been given really the opportunity. I think one of the biggest things when you get a grant is that those people trust you with by funding you. And so I think that was a big part of getting the grant for me, was that like I was able to be trusted with funds to be able to create something. And so then I was like, oh, okay, maybe I do have a place in media, and maybe that is possible. So yeah, I think definitely I think that kind of answers the question for sure.
It sure does. Thank you. There was a question as well. You touched on it really briefly, Emma, but I'm going to put it to the rest of the panelists as well. Feel free, anyone step in. About budget. So people are like, oh my gosh, where do we start? How much detail do we go into? My opinion here would be, please don't just go broad in the sense that it's going to take me 2 weeks to complete this, and that's £3,000. You need to be able to break it down. I'm not talking granular in terms of it's going to cost £2.50 for X, Y, and Z. I'm talking project based. So like outsourcing any costs in terms of freelancers or other creators you're working with, any logistical costs in terms of internal travel, accommodation, etc. That you might need, any stipends that you might, payments that you need to make to other suppliers. But don't worry if you've not got all of that information exactly quoted. Make it broad. We're not going to be looking granular, but we are going to be picking up on things like, okay, why haven't you put in any budget for your time? Because this is exactly, it's all of your time essentially. So just make sure that you do cover that. I don't know if any of the panelists want to step in here, because I know some of you was just to cover your time, others it was to cover external costs. Sammy, I know you worked with filmmakers, same with Tiff. Tiff, I know you had a much bigger production, so this was only a tiny amount towards you. But anyone feel free to give some advice here, because I know that is a big, overwhelming part of the application process.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
maybe
Go ahead, Stefan.
yeah, I'll just quickly jump in because yeah, didn't do the film, so I was mostly just paying myself to do the work, but I split it in stages of the work. So, research and sketching and just like establishing the ideas, and then the second phase of production, and the final phase of, putting it out there and creating the campaign around it, basically.
I saw somewhere in the questions about gear. I would say like we ran out of storage, like external hard drives. So we had to get somebody who was coming down later to bring an extra one that they Amazon to their house. We ran out twice on storage. We needed backup boat days because one of our boats one day broke. And so like just building in all those extra days. And then when you're down there, like in the field, if you're making a film, there will always just be like extra costs. Like when we brought on more local people that we weren't planning to, but who had skill sets that were helpful, we did things like bring them to lunch with us, right? And all those little incremental costs add a lot. So the tack on extra that you have, like actually make it sizable enough to make a difference when you're in a pinch. Oh, and we did for like weird logistics things. Like I went to like a bulk store, like a Costco, and I bought a bunch of granola bars so we wouldn't starve on the boat. There are things you can do at home, like pre-production, to make your actual week go a little bit smoother and cheaper.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's super key, isn't it? Let's be realistic about the budget. And another big question that keeps coming through, some of you are at the very start of your storytelling journey. Some of you have already filmed or produced or created your project and you need some support to get it over the line, to finish it or to distribute it. That is totally fine. We don't mind where you are in your process. We had one grantee last year that had filmed everything and he had no budget for post-production and he had nothing for sound design. So we helped him over the line with that, and it really kind of helped get it to the final stages and where it needs to be. So please don't worry about where you are in that stage. Just be honest with it. Any existing partners that you've already brought on board, which hopefully you have, other grantees, OCL are not precious when it comes to us needing visibility across your films and your projects. That's not what this is about. This is purely for us to be able to just give a small amount of support in your journey and where you're at. So please don't feel daunted or worried about that. But do check with your other partners, I would say that. So some people have had funding in the past that do stipulate that they can only be solely funding. So just make sure that if you have got some funding from other people, make sure you check that before applying. Other questions. So I'm going to, Matt, is there anything that I've missed in terms of urgent questions? I'm just trying to multitask here.
I think going back to that with the if it's part of a big project and there's other investors coming in, then what we're going to really try and do over the year is it is also a timeline thing. Somebody asked about when does the film need to be finished by. We know that a big film can take a lot longer than expected, so it can or the project that you're working on could be a 3-month project, it could be a year and a half. But in that year and a half, we want to be able to show behind the scenes what's going on, keep our community updated. So there is no real time limit on the end result, but also if there is third-party investors, then they can't be an NDA that stops us being able to share your behind the scenes. So if I think that answers a couple of questions there, but as long as we can share the behind the scenes and what you're doing throughout that year, then that's what we want, because we also want people to see what you're doing, and it keeps the story going.
One good question here from Gabby. What have past grantees typically invested their grant into? I know, Stefan, you've already kind of touched on that tip too. But really, Gabby, this is about trying to understand where you want to allocate those funds. So try and be specific on that too. So if you come to us and you say this project is a £20,000 project, but we're going to use this £3,000 here, and this is why. Just be conviction. Make sure your answer to that is with conviction and constructive in your thought process. Equally, we have grants that come through that only cost the 1,500 or 3,000. Totally okay. Everyone's different. Just detail that and be clear in the application process. Okay. I think I'm going to keep looking through, Matt.
Yeah, there's also a question here. Could you also provide examples of measurable impact? I think I have an idea. This is from Gabby. But it'd also be great to see what other grantees have provided previously. So the kind of like the end, the impact of the final film, or the final production, what is that? Just quickly from anyone. Maybe, yeah. Tiff, what did you come in with? What was the kind of like the main impact that you would kind of you came with us with?
We wanted to help the people of Tela feel proud of being Honduran and of this beautiful resource they have. And that's a goal that we have adopted from our local partners and that we're trying to amplify. And so like when we were filming and we were sharing on Instagram, we had people from around town following us and being like, you guys are the film crew. Oh my God, you're actually here. And so that to us was like on the ground. And then now that the film's been made and our star has been sharing, he said the entire town like cannot wait for us to do a screening. Like we're coming back in the summer. We've already booked out the aquarium. We're going to show everyone. And so for us, it's that, right? It's that impact right there.
Yeah, that's so strong, isn't it? And I think there's also been some questions come through about, just need to be about marine life, but it's not. It's a human impact. I think that one of the biggest stories here, it's a community. We're talking about protecting community, protecting our local island, our local towns, and it is community and the people that come first in these stories. And it is your story. Samuel, your impact, what's been your biggest goal right from the beginning? What have you always wanted to do?
Right from the start, my dream was to always just win a surf film festival, because I've seen all these sick surfers just making amazing movies and be like, I wish that could be me. And then fortunately enough, this summer we applied to the Portuguese Surf Film Festival and we won the audience award at the festival, which was just pure like a magical moment. It was we reached our milestone, and I guess that's like a measurable target that you can say is an impact. But I think the most special impact apart from that was just seeing how people feel after watching the movie, after hearing my story, like feel inspired or just I really see that it moves them, and that's what matters. And the movie, like, it's managed to screen across Europe in many places, in London, Jersey, and so I'm just really glad it managed to spread and reach as many people as possible.
Yeah, that's a really important point now. It's the impact and it's how you make people feel and it's inspiring other people. Everybody coming to us with that, if you can inspire us right from the start, then we know that your story is going to inspire others. That's what we want to see. That 2 minutes, inspire us with those 2 minutes of where you want to get to, your wildest dreams, your biggest dreams, and we know that that is going to impact others when the final film is produced. Are there any other questions there, Tam?
There's so many, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure they're all answered and circulated back to everyone via email, because there's just quite a few. So it might take me a little bit longer than 4 minutes to get through an additional 18. So I'm going to type them all up. Everyone's going to get a copy of this the talk and then all the questions. There's also FAQs on our website. There's also our Instagram that you can constantly message, email us. And obviously the grants close on the 31st of January. I'm going to talk a little bit about the process after that, because I think it's important. There's then going to be a 2-week period for the judges to review all the applications. And then those of you that have been shortlisted to interview stage will be invited to do so from the 22nd of February, during which time you will be given a 10-minute interview slot, and you will be you have the opportunity to chat to the judges. Once the final decision has been made at the end of February, it will be announced on the 1st of March. So those of you that have been successful will receive a phone call or an email or both. And then your project essentially starts from then. Like Matt said, some people complete their project within that year. Sometimes it takes longer. Life happens. Make sure you make us aware if anything happens to delay the project significantly, and you will be expected to every quarter submit a top line report on where you're at with the project, and it's really easily done via a sheet. And then also during the process, there's 3 pieces of content that we need from you. The first content is who you are, what your story is, what it's about. Second is update, and the third is the end of the project, what you've achieved. But that will all become clearer. And I will also say that we'll have another opening of the grants in August. So just be aware of that too. So we've got some now, and then we've got some more in August.
Tamsin, is there anything that kind of that came through to us that there was a budget that it was put to us something that was always like a bit of a
Yeah,
no,
so
they
I
could be
would
better
say,
used.
yeah, so this is a really good question. Actually, I was just typing it. So if you come to us and you say, I want to go to French Polynesia to tell a story around X, and all of your budget goes on international travel, none of your time, none distribution, you've not even considered how you're going to distribute the story. It purely is just £3,000 for my flight. That's not going to land well. And it's such a shame when we see that, because sometimes stories can be so great, but the budget really hasn't been thought. The distribution part of the story hasn't been thought about. The impact piece isn't there. So whilst it's an inspiring story and it might help, you've really not considered how it's going to help. So please just be aware of that. So we don't lean very well into international travel. And the one reason we do that as well is because we really want to try and support the local storytelling and ethical storytelling where we can. So less of the parachute storytelling. If there is need for travel, if there's need for distribution, travel when it comes to distribution as well, just make sure it's justified based on everything that we've just spoken about tonight.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to say as well. There's a reason that we set up OCL, so we could actually stop the kind of the transfer of crews going to flying to different countries all around the world when we know there are amazing content creators in these countries, and we're trying to find these voices that weren't, sometimes necessarily weren't heard before. And think about your local story. Sometimes don't try and think too big. I want to travel to the other side of the world. It's like, think about your local story. And or maybe it's a place that you do live. You're not, you weren't necessarily born there, but it's a place that you live now. And really think about your community. Think about the other people you can get involved with. There's also more questions about that, saying that the winners are individuals. They're not. Everybody here has worked alongside their community and have worked with as a collective. Reach out to other people that have the skills that maybe you don't, and they will come to you. If you can win this grant, but then work with people in your community or reach out to people, because it's only by working together that we can make a big difference. And OCL is always, we've always talked about that working as a collective.
Just one more point on that, Matt, actually, is individual applications and guardian applications. So obviously, if you're a guardian, let me clarify what a guardian is. A guardian is an organization or working actually directly in ocean conservation. So you can be a charity, you can be a community, and you're applying for this grant to tell your story. Therefore, the likelihood of you working with a storyteller is high. Again, they can be already internally within your team. They could be a local filmmaker, photographer, artist, muralist, whatever that is. Just make sure you make it clear that it's for your organization. This is where the content's going to live, and this is what the story is going to help us achieve. Or you could be an individual, you could be a storyteller, and you could be telling a story with a guardian. So you can collaborate with the guardians and also use our network and use our platform to find the guardians local to your area. Reach out to them. See, as an artist, as a photographer, filmmaker, as a storyteller, how can your skill set help lean into helping their mission? And then collectively, what can you both do about that? So I'd encourage that too. That was a question that kept coming up. We're guardians. Can we apply for the grant? Yes, you can. Absolutely. Encourage you to do so.
Yeah, it's very true about like going onto our platform. At the moment, you can't message people directly. It will happen, but just copy the name, post it into Instagram, and just send them a message. It's one of the quickest ways that you can do it. It's just finding people nearby, or put a quick story on your social media saying I'm looking for a content creator, or I'm reaching out to guardians, and it's people will see it and people will come back to you.
I'm going to have to reply to the rest of the questions via email and FAQs as well, Matt, because there's just another 20. It might take me a little while. And I know it's late for a lot of our panelists at the moment. I mean, it's 3 a.m. in Vietnam, or 1 a.m. here in Sri Lanka, so I'm mindful of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think do you have any kind of like finishing questions here, Tamsin, or anything to say?
Yeah, I just encourage, there's obviously quite a few questions. A lot of them have been answered or in our FAQs. But other than that, I just encourage you to apply. The application isn't too heavy. And also if there's a part of information that you feel is missing, just put that, just say, can't answer this question right now, or budget, leave that blank, like TBC. Don't feel like you have to, come up with an answer for the sake of it. Just be
I think you just blank yourself. I think, and also try not to leave it to the very last second of the very last evening at 12 o'clock. Try and if you get prepared. Maybe send your work. Maybe send it through a week before, a few days before. I say that, but I mean, every competition I've ever entered, I've entered on the very last day. But try and be organized, so you're not rushing it at the very last minute on the very last day. Put in your diary time out to film myself for this epic grant with OCL, and give yourself a week, give yourself a few days, and use that time wisely, and ask any of the panelists here, reach out, ask a question. I know everyone's very busy, but if there's some questions there very direct to everything that they've said today, reach out and ask a question, and we will get back. Tamsin?
Thanks. No, this is great. I'm happy with that. I know there's loads more. And panelists, thank you all so much for your time. And I also wanted to say that there's a lot of grantees that aren't on this call right now that are always open to answering questions too. Reach out to them, check out some of their past stories.
Yeah, go on the website. Go on the website and have a look at the past stories, and really kind of get an understanding of the end results that they had there, because it's very varied. This is the thing. There is no one answer. It's like everybody is very different grantee winners from very different areas, and it will give you a little bit of a better understanding. But also, it's good to know that it is an open competition. But we want to be inspired, and we want you to inspire others. So yeah, Emma, Samuel, Stefan, Tiff, Tamsin, thank you all very much. Thank you for your questions and your interactions here. And yeah, I'm excited to follow your guys' story, and I'm excited to see what everybody out there is going to send to us. This is an exciting opportunity. I think the world is changing, but the world is beautiful, and being in and around the ocean can only make us much happier people. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. And there'll be a follow-up email in the next few days with a kind of overarching this whole conversation and with the questions. And Tamsin's going to reply to each and every question over the next few hours, aren't you, Tamsin?
Yeah, I'm going to stay up till 5 a.m. and do exactly that.
Good. You're not allowed to go surfing until you do.
No, I won't. I hope you all have some time in the ocean this year, and the 2026 is prosperous for everyone.
Absolutely. Happy New Year to all, and share your stories. Thank you, team. I'm going to finish this now.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.